Ink and blood, the lines that divide us. In the dim-lit silence of a cold undercrop, the ruler, never just a tool for measuring distance, but the sole instrument of division. Its arbitrary edge carves into fragments people, their past, and their futures. A pencil signs a drafted map, and secret draws dividing dashes not of dirt, but of distinction and danger. Drinking tea while slicing deserts like desserts, but never tasting the dust, the space they sliced, virtual, vast, and alien, spanned across the distance between ink letters on a page. From the E in acre to the last K in Kirkuk, a stroke of pen, a tear in the fabric of time, the ink ran in scars over dry but not empty land they carved. Lightning that never attacked the same place twice, as cold and indifferent as the hands that guided them. Two diplomats in a moment of imperial arrogance, a Briton and a Frenchman, drew lines, the root cause of what is now etched across the map of the Middle East. Ignoring the delicate, slicing through ethnic and religious communities with reckless precision, a world that had long thrived on its rich tangled web of tribes and faiths was now cleaved. Its people scattered like the fragments of a once whole mosaic. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire gave birth to fragile new states, a forced marriage and a moral imperial imposition on a people who did not decide their futures. There is a river where the line was drawn, but the river doesn't know where it ends or begins. It carries the same water it did before, but the people on either shore now speak different tongues. A wound isn't erased with time. It does not stop the flow. It only becomes part of the landscape, only creates a torrent of all that cannot be contained, a scar still fresh from 100-year-old knife. And this expands where the material is slowly crumbling into a white void, where borders once stood firm, the threadbare identities of old re-emerge in the hollow space. Torn from the fabric of a fractured unity, pursuant to a dream of chasing a distant elusive star, authority has slipped into the chasm of chaos, and the older identities are called upon like ghosts from a distant past. Sunni, Shiite, Kurd, this sectarianism rises like a dark tide, filling the void left by a century of fractured governance, and so the land trembles, its glue delaminating and being replaced by repressive rule and fear. 100 years of struggle echo in the count of lives lost in the millions, and the displaced similarly so, this dark ravine through the soul into which people fall and never climb back out. But in the shifting seeds of a draining grain silo, these cracks do not form in a vacuum. Just as the ill-conceived reverberations rose from the ashes of fractured unity, so too the sandlines of 15 August 1947. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom, but India only awoke to death. Decisions were made with a swiftness that belied the profound weight. In a moment, the subcontinent was torn asunder by lines birthed from rush, unfamiliarity, and inexperience. Time was not on their side, neither was wisdom. These nations were created to ensure a religious majority, but how could these cruel lines ever capture the depth of faith? The fates of millions decided in a brief 5-week span with little more than conversation as a guide. Railway tracks, rivers, and villages were not spared from his reckless and cruel arbitrariness, separating livelihoods from the land they had nurtured for generations. And so a nation was divided not by the will of its people, but by the carelessness of distant men who never saw the depth of their sin. 78 years later, the echoes of suffering still reverberate across lands that were once united. Ink dried in London, blood never did in Lahore. The new borders birth nations, putrid as they are, but they also birth hatred as cycles of ethnic cleansing, a fragile peace teetering on the history of division, where every boundary carried with it the numerous ghosts that died crossing it, the root of generations of pain. In the wake of division, what grows but the thorns of rage and regret? 14 million migrated, at least 1 million killed. These stark and harrowing dreams of unity have been scattered like ashes down a river. Each passing year feeds the fires of old grievance, stoking flames that once again rise and yielding from the same charred earth. They, the distant architects, never saw the storm they sowed. Lines don't divide, they just bleed. Before the smoke-like suggestions lies the map tattered and torn, its edges frayed, its ink faded like the dreams it's once symbolized. A tool of control never could contain reality, chaos bleeding through the black canyons of its own design. They carved their chinograph carbon black and iron gall names across the map, but they never touched the heart of the land they sought to divide. The hypogeal can never be bowdlerized, the subterranean can never be censored or sanitized, the underground can never be altered or turned down. Not by rulers, nor by rulers' line.